New segment, new guest, new questions. Ellen Hart and the erudite Alan Simpson. See, this time I'm not going to mention. You're going to either decide. Oh, I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
I blew it. I'm sorry. Well, he writes under the name of M.D. Lake. And Ellen, you've been friends with this man for a very long time. What revelations will we unearth today?
Oh, I think some very, very intriguing ones. M.D. Lake is the award-winning author of 10 Peggy O'Neill mysteries. He's won the Agatha Award given by Malice Domestic for 2 of his mysteries, Kim's Game, in Malice Domestic 2, edited by Mary Higgins Clark, and Tea for Two, in an anthology edited by Joan Hess. We're going to start out with something, I think, which will be light and fun, and I traveled with M.D. Lake for many, many
years
with M.D. Lake and R.D. Zimmerman before I started traveling with you two. Yeah.
Hussy.
I know. Well, as I say, I only travel with smart, funny, and very good-looking men. So it's you know.
Geniuses.
Geniuses all. Geniuses all.
Yeah, don't forget that.
What was your most embarrassing moment as a writer?
Oh dear, there have been so many.
Keep it clean, please. Keep it clean.
I guess the most embarrassing moment was the first embarrassing moment, which was I was writing my second Peggy O'Neill mystery, and it was the summer and it was hot, and I hadn't bathed in about 3 days because I was working against a deadline. Maybe you don't understand that yourselves, but I hadn't shaved. Well, I think to say that I looked scruffy would have been gilding the lily, you know. So, but I had to go to the library to do some research. So I set off to the library, and as I walked in the door, a woman was just sitting down a big pile of books on the return desk, and she turned away and started to leave, and the librarian held up my first book and said, "Oh, ma'am, this isn't ours." And the woman turned around to come back and get the book, and I said, "I wrote that!" Now, remember, yes, I was looking like the kind of guy that women are told in libraries to watch your purse and your children, you know?
Yes,
and
yes.
She said, quick with repartee herself, "No, you didn't." And I, fast with a retort, said, "Yes, I did." And at this point, the librarians begin to gather.
Calling for security, no doubt.
And this woman clutches my book to her chest and says, "Well, I liked it," and then she scuttled out. But I'm sure if she really believed I wrote it, she never read another one.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That was kind of an embarrassing moment, wouldn't you say?
I would say.
Yeah.
Have you had any bad fan mail?
Well, no, nothing but glorious. No, actually. I've had 2 really bad letters. One was it came to me on blue note paper with little chintzy flowers, and it was obviously written by some sweet young thing who said, "Dear M.D. Lake, I'm always looking on the lookout for mysteries that feature strong female characters, and I thought I had found one in your Peggy O'Neill until she made a slurring comment about ice hockey." And she said, "I will never read another one of your books." You know. So,
did you answer her? This was before email. This was an actual letter.
No, I just said under my breath, you know, "Get alive."
Yeah.
I mean, with somebody who writes on blue note paper with little chintzy flowers,
yeah,
obviously doesn't need to hear anything harsh.
Now, for readers for viewers who aren't familiar with your work, your Peggy O'Neill series is set on a university campus.
A Midwestern University campus with a large river running through it.
That's right, which shall remain nameless.
Absolutely.
But you were yourself an academic for many years.
It's true.
Did you end up in your work ever doing the dirty deed to people you'd wished in real life?
Yeah.
You'd been able to do that too?
Yeah, in a couple of cases I did, but you know yourself, the story, the needs of the plot choose characters up. You might put in your best friend and your worst enemy. Before the novel is through with those characters, they're not that person anymore at all. But it was really weird. I was on a committee with a bunch of deans and associate deans of College of Liberal Arts, and the dean sitting next to me, that was after my third book came out, I think, he nudged me.
We should mention that you were a professor of Scandinavian Studies at the
I was a
university.
professor of Scandinavian Studies.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. I'd
Yes.
forgotten.
Yes.
At a large Midwestern university.
With a river running through it.
Yes, the same. the
Do you
very
ever
same.
name in any of your books?
I think the last one I did finally name it, or maybe the one before that, I can't remember. But anyway, this dean nudges me and he said, hey, you know, I really like what you did too. And he points to the dean across the table from us.
Yeah.
But the weird thing was, the one I did it to was the guy that nudged me. So nobody ever knows. Nobody ever knows that you put them in the books. And as I say, the plot usually chews them up before you can be, so they're no longer recognizable.
You know, when I wrote out the questions for you, I had a question that said, you spent your entire life as a professor of Scandinavian Studies at the U of M.
Not my entire life.
Well, a great
Please.
part of it. A great part of it.
Yes.
I know, you were a Marine and all these other things.
No, I got.
Is that right?
I
Yeah.
took
didn't
early
know that.
retirement. They gave us a golden parachute for anybody who had a certain number of years in, and blah blah blah. And just at that time, I got a 3-book contract, and I leapt out of academia, largely because some fellow got a big grant to write a study of the Kantian imperative and the Hegelian Sittlichkeit as the basis and foundation for morality in sport.
He snapped. He's speaking in
sport.
tongues.
Yeah, no.
In sport.
And you
I
thought-
thought, it's time to get out and get into something honest. Do something honest. And I thought writing murder mysteries where I kill off.
Well, that was my question. You know, I mean, of all things that you could have written, why did you?
Well, I had thought of writing the Great American Novel, for example, but then I remembered that Huckleberry Finn is already there, so, you know, what can I do? And some of you had done it already. Or, well, you hadn't started yet, but you have.
None of us had started.
You're working on it, I know that.
We're working on the Great American Novel?
On the Great American
Well,
Mystery
our first
Novel,
books
anyway.
came out the same year.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you chose to make your protagonist female, which is an odd choice.
Yes,
for
and then
guy.
hide behind a pseudonym.
Yeah, well, I wanted to write a first person, but I wanted to set it on the university campus because as you say, I'd spent a number of years there, 27 to be exact, and I didn't know anything else. I mean, I have to ask directions for how to cross a street, you know, because when you're caught up in a university life, you don't know things, trivial things like that. And so I decided to set it on a campus, but I didn't want to make it a professor because they're kind of tedious people. So I remembered that a girl that used to live next door to me grew up to become the second female campus cop on the university campus. Regan Metcalf is her name. She's retired now, but she retired as a lieutenant. So I went to Regan and said, can you tell me what campus cops do? So she did, and we walked around campus together. She likes, like Peggy O'Neill, she likes the dog watch from, I can't even remember what it is anymore, 10 to 6 or something like that. But we walked around all of the night and ruined lots of nights of sleep for me. And then when I went home and I started to write the first person novel, all I could hear was Regan Metcalf's voice, you know?
Sure.
And I thought it would be kind of ungenerous to learn everything I know about campus cops from a woman and then turn around and make it a guy. And I'm so glad I did, because I wasn't shrewd enough at that time to realize that if I made it I without first coming up with a big biography of who this I is, it would be me. And when I, as Alan Simpson, found a corpse in an office building, I wouldn't do what Peggy did. I'd go screaming to the nearest phone and call the cops. But by the simple choice of making it a woman, my slow brain realized that I had to create a biography for her. And this biography, and she clearly wasn't me. So I finally had a character almost inadvertently.
Yeah. And a very successful one.
Yeah,
Do you know
worked
what?
out.
That's really interesting, especially because it leads into the next segment. But we're out of time.
I know, I hear this.
You
hear the music.
Thank you
Thank you
both.
so much for coming.
Oh, you're
really
quite welcome.
Yes.
It's my pleasure.
Here's a look at some of M.D. Lake's book covers, because some of them are still out there. You can still buy them and still read them. I have, and I can tell you they're really interesting. So for your reading pleasure, find his books.